All right, so we're on to the second section now. The first one we did was goals, and as I mentioned in that previous section, the second section, where we talk about mindset, is perhaps the most important section that we're going to go through for your training, because without the proper mindset, the stuff we're going over today, the rest is really just details. Details that aren't really going to matter much or amount to much if you don't actually enact them. So that's why we're talking about mindset today. So first of all, why is that important? So to know why it's important, let's take a look at millionaires. People who have made at least $1 million at some point in their life or more. Turns out that 80% of millionaires in America are considered self-made. And what that means is they didn't start with that money. They started like anybody else who didn't have $1 million, but they figured out how to get to it. And that tells us two things about millionaires. One, they worked to get the money. It kind of pops that bubble and that idea that for whatever reason you have to be born into wealth to have wealth. And that's a lot of thing that a lot of people believe, like oh, just the rich keep getting richer and there's no chance for me if I don't have these opportunities that these rich people have. So no, 80% of people made it themselves in their own lifetime. So that also tells us another thing though, that wealth is fleeting. It leaves, it disappears pretty quick. The big question is, why don't their kids have it? Shouldn't there be a larger percentage of people? If I have $1 million, shouldn't you turn around and then my kids also have $1 million? Because since they're inheriting it, how come the kids don't have it? Why is it that 80% of them are self-made? It means if they didn't inherit it, if they don't inherit, it means the kids who did inherit that money didn't know what to do with it. They're kind of like lottery winners in that way. Heirs or people who inherit a lot of money are like lottery winners. They're lucky enough to kind of have that cash come into their lives, but sometimes they're like a lottery winner, equally uneducated on what to do with it, and thus they end up losing it pretty quickly. So why do they lose it? I think it boils down to two things, and this is me, it's my own conjecture on this, but it makes sense, is knowledge and mindset, or perhaps both. And what I mean by knowledge is they're lacking the know-how. And the know-how to preserve that wealth. There's ways to, if you get a bunch of money, there's a way to hold on to it versus just having it all disappear. So they don't know how to preserve the wealth, let alone knowing how to expand it and grow it into something even greater. Maybe they don't have the entrepreneurial skills or ambitions of their parent or parents to maintain that money source. And when I say money source, it could be a business or it could be investments. But when I say they're lacking know-how, just because they didn't inherit that ambition and stuff, it also probably means that the parents didn't teach them. They didn't sit them down like we're doing right here and talking to you guys, and didn't teach them like, here's what you need to do to preserve that wealth. But even if they did, maybe they did teach them that stuff. Maybe they were wise enough as parents to turn around and say, hey, here's what you gotta do, here's how you save your money, here's how you make it grow. But there's another possibility, is that perhaps those kids, those inheritors, didn't have the right mindset. Maybe they ended up doing things like spending more than they make. Or maybe if they just have a lump sum of money, not an income, maybe they spent and they burnt it through it far too quickly. So it's one of those two. It's going to be either they don't know how, or they don't have the right mindset on how to do it. So the question for you guys is, do you guys have the right skills, knowledge, and mindset? Is wealth attainable for you? Do you think you guys can get wealthy? Yes or no? Hopefully you understand now from all the things we've been talking about that I believe that you can. But again, just to kind of prove the point, let's look at the rich, but this time we're going to look at the very rich. We're going to look at like the richest of the 1% of the 1%, the billionaires in the world, right? And these folks who attain this kind of wealth, they're very rare. And from the kind of things I've been reading about these kind of people, I think that they have an entrepreneurial spirit, like a lot of folks, but they have some very specific personality traits that aren't common at all. And they're not necessarily even easily replicated. So I think there's a reason there's so few people doing this out there who are, billionaires. And so if you just look at them, it's kind of daunting, and you think, well, shoot, I don't know if I can do that. And no, I don't know that you guys can be taught how to be billionaires. However, if we look at the mere millionaire, the person who makes just $1 million or less, we'll call them low-end millionaires, people who aren't making very much as far as, compared to a billionaire, but still making a decent amount of money, the low-end millionaires. people who took the long route to get to wealth. Instead of exploding their income and making it really large in a very short period of time, more like what we were talking about, where you slowly grow it over time with investments and real estate and things like that. These folks also have specific traits that I think sets them apart from the average person. I don't think they're in the majority at all, but these traits are far more common and they're far easier to replicate. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Like, what is the mindset that these folks have that does set them apart? And I don't think that these people are necessarily born with these traits, but they can, as I mentioned, they can definitely be learned. I personally didn't start with the knowledge. You guys know that. Nobody told me how to do the things I was doing. Both knowledge and confidence that kind of came with the knowledge were acquired along the way during my lifetime. And during that time, I made some really stupid choices. I think you guys have, all of you, maybe you're not aware of them, but I made some dumb choices along the way where I thought I knew what I was doing financially, with business decisions, with life decisions, and I wasn't. A good example is when I was offered health insurance when I was young. I actually turned it down. It was free. It came with the job, which is a great perk. If you get free health insurance through your company, you should definitely take it. But I thought, you know what, I'm independent. I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for a particular wage. I didn't sign up for free insurance. I don't take free from anybody. I was too proud to take it, which is, I look back, it's a very, very stupid decision. And it was a very costly decision because it ended up when my second child became very ill and I didn't have that insurance, I ended up, well, first of all, she ended up in hospital for 3 days. It was very expensive and life-saving, fortunately. But it ended up costing $8,000, which these days would be even more. But it took years for her mom and I to pay off that debt because of that, and it all would have been fixed with having some insurance, or at least it would have been a lot less money. It would have just been a premium. So, very stupid decision, but one that I made with just complete lack of understanding of how finances work and things like that.